a nail on issue one. We had town halls. We've had everything from survivalist speakers in to show us how to can and find food in the woods to congressional candidates to Christian speakers motivating us with prayer and scripture and the whole thing. So that's where we are. So I'm passionate about a lot of different things, but I do try to find one thing that I can focus on, and that's my encouragement here. And that's what I'm going to do here in just a second. We're going to take one thing that I think is important, and I don't know if you guys have notes in your phone or a notebook. Russ just mentioned it, but I'm going to put out an action item that's very simple, and we're going to see if we can't, if nothing else, this event, we can move the needle on an issue. Before I do the other thing, I am involved also in a ministry called SWAT, S-W-A-D-T, Spiritual Warfare and Deliverance Team. You guys can find us on Facebook. I'm passionate about this thing where we say we're fighting a spiritual war. We wrestle not against flesh and blood, but principalities and powers. We know this, but are we acting like it? If you're not taking action, you don't believe it. If you know somebody's going to kick in your door tonight, you're going to lock it and you're going to bar the door. If you know your freedoms are actually, if you really understand where you're at, you're going to take action. If you believe there's going to be a power outage, you're going to find a generator. You're going to put some food storage in your basement. If you're not doing those things, you don't believe it. You really don't. It hasn't sank deep enough in your spirit if you aren't doing something. If you say that we're at a spiritual war, but you're not, you're shotgun prayers. I use that term a lot because we say, oh God, save America, help us, Jesus. All these people are evil. You have to help us and save us and blah, blah. No, that's not war. That's pitiful. I'm sorry. We are better. We're snipers, spiritual snipers, okay? We're going to find a cause, pray into it, do whatever you can do with a specific mission. I hammer that because we say, I hear people in the circle, I'm a people guy, talk to a lot of people, we say all these things, but nobody is actually taking this step and doing it. There's so many good causes here, Over at the other building, find one, listen to them, and ask them, maybe this is where, if you don't have a cause, find a cause in that building today. There's so many organizations. The Medical Freedom. Please sign the Medical Freedom release. For those of you online, find a place, if you live in Ohio, to sign the right to refuse medical freedom. We're trying to put an old bill, HB 248, into our Constitution. See, the left paid people. Yeah, they had a lot of funding, okay, but they also have a lot of action takers. Whenever issue 1 came up, how many of you know what issue 1 was? You guys know what issue 1 was? You remember we just passed the most egregious constitutional amendment in Ohio's history? But we've been trying for 2.5 years to do the same thing, to get the signatures to put HB 248 in our Constitution. It's almost a fight we can't win because we don't have the people. We don't have the action. So go find and sign the petition, and I'll leave that rabbit alone. Okay. I'm going to get to here real quick. I want your attention for 3 minutes. I'm going to play a clip. I'm going to see if this works. And then I want you guys to put this in your notebook. It is change.org, Ahmad Massoud. Does anybody here know who Ahmad Massoud is? Go to change.org and search Ahmad Massoud. And I'm going to spell that for you. Ahmad is A-H-M-A-D. For those of you online, Ahmad Massoud. Massoud is M-A-S-S-O-U-D. This is an action thing, and I think that we can feel good about doing this if we do nothing else of actual taking action and coalescing around each other today. So I'm going to play a 3-minute video of what this is and why it's important, and we can all make a difference. And let me tell you this, your elected officials care about what you say. I know, I hear it all the time, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what we think, they don't care. They don't care if you say something, they don't care if 2 or 3 people say something, and if you say something, they don't like it, I use this, they step back. But if you don't do anything else, they come right back in their position. They don't listen to nobody. But if we have 5, 10, 15, 20 people, I guarantee you it makes an impact. And that's what this is about. This is a petition that we're going to ask you to sign. I'm going to play the clip.
Listen up, because you're all going to want to pay attention to this. Pre-9/11, the U.S. was given several warnings.
You hear that?
By a man named Ahmad Massoud, leader, commander of the Afghan National Resistance Front. Those warnings stated that there was an imminent terrorist attack that was going to happen on U.S. soil. And his warnings were completely ignored by the administration at the time. And we all know how that ended. It ended with the World Trade Center falling to the ground, killing thousands and thousands of Americans, putting us in a 20-plus year war. Now, Massoud was assassinated 2 days before 9/11, and he's survived by his son, also Ahmad Massoud, who's following in a parallel pattern of his father's footsteps, also now the leader of the Afghan National Resistance Front. And Massoud is once again warning the United States that there is an imminent threat for a terrorist attack to take place once again right here on U.S. soil. And once again, his warnings are falling on deaf ears and being completely ignored. In fact, as D.C. tries to cover up the way the Afghan withdrawal happened, they've blacklisted him from coming to the U.S. And so SRS has taken action. We've created a petition. The link is below in the description. And I urge every veteran who fought in the global war on terrorism to sign that petition. And if you have a family member who fought in that war, sign the petition. And if you're a citizen who's concerned that what Massoud is telling us is actually true and there is an imminent threat to the U.S. that there will be a terrorist attack, I urge you to sign the petition. We're going to get the petition to Representative McCall, who is chairman of the House of Foreign Affairs Committee. He's over the State Department. He can get Massoud in front of Congress so Congress can hear what that man has to say about these threats and about the way that withdrawal happened. Trust me, this is in all of our best interest.
Did any of you guys know that story? Ahmad Massoud was killed 2 days before 9/11. His son is now the resistance to the Afghan army. He said he knew the withdrawal from America was going to happen, from Afghanistan was going to happen. He knew it was coming. It had already been planned out. They knew that we were going to leave $80 billion of army stuff there. So that is the state. I don't have to tell you guys the state of our nation and where this is at. But it's things like this. The petition is at change.org, Ahmad Massoud. This is the Sean Ryan show. I listen to it on any podcast app. Sean Ryan's probably the greatest podcaster right now with the greatest stories. These guys on the front lines, go follow these guys. Sign this petition. That's an action item that we can actually take. The reason I'm bringing this up, last week, Sean put the call out to sign this petition. He has 2.77 million YouTube subscribers. He put the call out, sign the petition, get Ahmad Massoud in front of Congress so he can testify what he's seeing. He's in Afghanistan, in one of the provinces. What triggered this, the United States is giving $40 million a week. No, a month, $40 million a month to Afghanistan terrorists right now. We are funding the Afghan Taliban, literally, right now. We're sending money to the Taliban. I don't know how direct it is. Ahmad Massoud has testified. So the citizens, the petition will get him in front of Congress to put it on record. But when he made the call to sign the petition with his 2.77 million subscribers, all over TikTok, all over every platform, he said approximately 6 million views. Within the first 3 days, 62,000 people signed the petition. That's like 2%. It's important that you guys take note of that. Because this is where we're at, and it has to change, or we're going to lose our country. We've got plenty of warriors, plenty of people here, but we don't have people who are activated. 62,000 out of 5.786 million views signed the petition. It shows and speaks of a culture that is not what we have stepped back. We want to go to church or go fishing. We have not engaged in the war, and it's obvious this is what's happening. So I just kind of reiterate that. This is what I'm passionate about. And I'm going to come again, change.org, Ahmad Massoud. Click to sign the petition. It's free. I donated something, but you don't have to donate if you can't. You can donate $1. We're trying to get it in front of Congress. There's a lot of good causes, guys. But I'm going to share just real quick before I end here. How much time do I have? Is Russ here? Russ, who's next? Let me look here. I don't like being a mic hog, but I'll stay up here as long as I need to.
I'm going to find out right now.
All right, 11 o'clock, Tim Carlson. I don't know if Tim Carlson's here. If he's not, the next man up is actually Joe Blystone of an intermission. All right.
I'm here.
Oh, okay. All right, let me end with this. Thank you. Thank you, Tim.
I have to do or something else.
What's that? Give me, no. Just Tim? Okay, all right, I'll end. And then we'll bring Tim up here. What's that? Oh, yeah, he had nobody singing. Just real quick. I want to tell you guys what I talk about with other leaders when we're having conversations. We had a conversation last night outside the camper, sitting outside the campers. We're going to talk about, we're going to be the most honest there. We're not going to BS. We're going to talk about really how we see it, and that's what you guys need to know. Where frontline people are at in this fight. And it's going to sound like a broken record, because people need to hear things 3 to 5 times before they get it and act on it. But our whole discussion is the people that were there in 2022 for the midterms, that were there for after the stolen election, those people have deactivated. And it's important to recognize where we're at in America. Okay, I talked yesterday, if you didn't hear my speech, I talked about 10 things that have happened in America in the last 2 weeks. The acceleration of just insanity since COVID. Look at all the things, the pull out of Afghanistan, the war in Kiev, all of those things. But then just in the last 10 days we've had from the assassination attempt of Trump, that's been 2 weeks now, an acceleration. While that acceleration of insanity and evil is happening, there is a retracting of the Patriots. I know I sound like a broken record, but I'm telling you, if we don't activate, if you don't become specific in your mission, what you're going to pray about, what you're going to activate in, if you're going to door knock and campaign up to this election, if you're going to find a prayer team and pray against some demonic agenda coming into your schools, if you're going to get on the medical freedom ride to try to stop this medical tyranny. How many of you believe there's going to be another pandemic? Maybe before the election. I call it the election virus, because they love to bring that thing out before the election. It's going to happen, and if you fully understand just how deactivated a lot of people are, that's not a discouragement, that's to let you fight different. That's our conversations around the campfire. We have to, I said, Lord, give me the wisdom of Solomon. And I always think of the story in the Bible where the 2 women came to Solomon. and they were fighting over the baby. The one woman said, it's my baby. The other woman said, no, it's my baby. They got mixed up, or they were, the story, I guess, was one woman couldn't have a baby, something like that. I don't remember the details, but you all know the story. And Solomon held the baby up, pulled a sword out of his sheath, and he said, I'll give you each half. And the real mama fell to her knees and said, no, it's her baby. Give her the baby. I'm sorry. And Solomon knew that the real mama was the first one to speak. No, don't kill my baby. That is wisdom beyond our natural thinking. Solomon was the wisest man in the world. Probably way smarter than Confucius and all these other people. But that's the kind of wisdom we need to activate people to fight this fight. Fight it differently. Don't continue to do the things that didn't work last week. Let's adjust. Let's make adjustments and find ways to activate. And when you go home, do something that you didn't do last week. Engage in the war somewhere. And then last but not least, I want to give a couple people a shout out because there's so many good Patriots in Ohio. And again, we got to promote each other. There's lots of Patriot groups. Coach Dave was here yesterday. Coach Dave Live. Please go support Coach Dave. He had an amazing speech, and it was about getting on the same team and getting activated. We're all talking about it. That's all people can talk about. Because we see the armies out here, they're not activated. The armies are sitting there. Think about Valley Forge. If those soldiers would not have stayed together, they crossed that river, barefooted a lot of them. Their blood was from the river to the village. It was like a 7 or 8 mile trek. And that's why we're here. That's why when people died, the morale was low, but they still went. Is morale low right now in the conservatives?
Oh, yeah.
It's pretty low. But let's just take hope from, go read the Thomas Paine speech. That's what George Washington read. The Sunshine Patriot and the Winter Soldier. That speech will light something in you, and then be inspired to not just feel good, but to actually do good. So anyway, Coach Dave, Resistance Chicks, there's podcasters, Courtney Allen, Patriot Strong. I always try to promote those groups. All the YouTubers here, go support them, share them with your friends and family. You guys, you're the media.
Yes. Hoorah!
You are the media. It's up to you to share, like, comment. It helps, breaks through the algorithm. You're the media. CNN is laughable. Fox News, barely worth listening to. All of the Blaze is pretty good. We've got some good media. Now the Tucker Carlson Network. But essentially, I get all my news from alternative media. Twitter accounts, Instagram, Facebook accounts that post it. So we want to support each other, promote the brand, which is patriotism. All right, guys. God bless you guys. Find a cause and fight.
Amen.
Fight.
As blood leaks from my ear. Thank you, Jason Miller. We were in a Trump train last weekend, and we thought it was distasteful. A dude showed up with a bandage on his ear. Yeah. No, that wasn't cool. He took it off. Ladies and gentlemen, we are about to be entertained. Tim, you were with us last year, were you not? I totally remember you. This guy, great musician. Is this your phone? He's going to come up, play a little acoustic guitar, and tell you stories, and give his insight, and put it to music for you. Always wish I learned how to play the acoustic. Okay. Mic on the stand down to the guitar, or what do you want to do? Okay.
Yeah, I'm good, thanks.
Ladies and gentlemen, Tim Carlson. Give him a hand.
Hey, good to be here. By the way, my last name is Carlson, but I am no kin to Tucker. I would love to claim him as my cousin, all right? And I did not. Let me make sure I'm good too here. I heard him reference the Resistance chicks. How many of you know who the Resistance? I love those gals. I missed them meeting on, he was talking about different media you watch. I'll tell you a place where I get most of my news now. Okay, thanks. Where I get most of my news now is through Real America's Voice. Anybody else here watch Real America's Voice? Steve Kennedy is one of my heroes. Got to meet him, got to be on his show one time. They're doing a great work. Of course, right now they got him a little held back, don't they?
Yep.
But just like Peter Navarro, they may set him aside for a while, but they are not going to break him.
That's right.
And I do appreciate so much, yeah. I appreciate so much what Real America's Voice does. Yeah, we're good. I think I'm good. Just been riding in a hot car. I'm going to start with an old Billy Dean song that I just like to do. It's a fun song. It's a really positive song about how that we need to make the most of every day that God gives us. It's a song called We're Only Here for a Little While, and the older I get, the more I realize how true that is, that we're only here for a little while. And I hope you enjoy it. Listen, if you know this, sing along. If you don't, clap your hands. Just get a hand clapper. Or if you want to just twiddle your toes, that's fine too. All right, here we go. I'm gonna hold you, needs holding. Man, what needs mending? Walk what needs walking. Though it needs an action mind. Pray what needs praying. Say what needs saying. 'Cause we're only here for a little while. Today I stood singing songs and saying goodbye to an old friend who seemed so young. He spent his life working hard to chase a dollar, but not until tomorrow. Things he should have done made me stop and think, what's the hurry? Why the running? I don't like when I'm coming. I'm gonna change my style, take my time, and not take it all for granted. 'Cause we're only here for a little while. I'm gonna hold who needs holding, mend what needs mending, walk what needs walking, it needs an action mind, pray what needs praying, say what needs saying, 'cause we're only here for a little while. Lord, let me live like I'll never see tomorrow. Live each day as though it's borrowed, like it's precious as a child. Take my hand, let us reach out to each other, 'cause we're only here for a little while. I'm gonna hold who needs holding, mend what needs mending, walk what needs walking, it needs an extra mile, pray what needs praying, say what needs saying, 'cause we're only here for a little while. I'm gonna hold who needs holding, mend what needs mending, walk what needs walking, it needs an extra mile, pray what needs praying, say what needs saying, 'cause we're only here for a little while. Yes, we're only here for a little while. Okay, catch my breath now. Swig of water. Pretty day, isn't it? I'm the minister at the Christian church. A little town called East Sparta, just south of Canton. Anyway, I actually came in this morning from Michigan because I had been up there visiting family, and I think it was a little closer from there maybe than it was from where I would have to come from, East Sparta. But it's good to be here. I appreciate my friend Dawn asking me to share with you today. I'm going to do a song that I just like to do. It's a song that's really about the providence of God. And what I mean by that is, God is everywhere, right? He sees everything. He knows everything. He can do anything, anywhere that he wants to do, anytime he wants to do it, right? That means God is providential, okay? Or like the theologians like to say, he's omnipresent, omnipotent, and what's the other one? I can't remember. There's a third one. But anyway, God can do everything, and he is everywhere. Oh, he's omniscient. He knows everything. Okay. So this is a song. I think we witnessed the truth of it just recently. This is a song that really talks about God's providence in our lives and how he watches over us individually. How many of you saw Donald Trump get shot in the air? Okay? How many of you believe God might have moved that bullet? He might have had a guardian angel, and I do believe in them. And even Jesus spoke about angels who behold the face of their Father, his Father for individuals. And so, this is a song by a fellow by the name of Brian Duncan, and it's a reggae song, which means the emphasis is on the second and fourth beat, okay? And with that, it's a song called I See You. And now the message of it to me is not only does God see us, but when we see him working in our lives and around us as he does, we need to be seeing him too. And I think I saw him a couple of weeks ago today in Pennsylvania. I wasn't there. I almost went to that rally, but I didn't. But anyway, this is a song that goes like this. It kind of starts out with that. It's like a second and fourth beat. I see you watching over me every day, another way that I can see your love, and I see you looking out for me. All I want to do is thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Under a bridge or upon a mountain, see you in everything, like stars I'm counting, streets of gold, just mud and gravel. You're always with me on this road I travel. Straight and narrow, goes up and down, and there ain't no way for me to turn around in, but I can make it up to living me through. I see the signs and I do, and I do by you. I see you watching over me every day, another way that I can see your love, and I see you looking out for me, and all I want to do is thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Help I can use, or not to speak of, the way I'm gonna lose. I trust in your love. Whatever comes, I'd rather face it all together. I see it through, I know it's you, and I remember. I see you watching over me every day, another way that I can see your love. And I see you looking out for me, and all I want to do is thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Ways no one can see, show no one but me. way, not the way that I can see love, and I see you looking out for me, and all I want to do is thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Isn't that a fun song? There's a song that I did here last year, or there last year, I should say, that I'm going to have to pull the words out a little bit. I really like this song. Oh, I just tossed my Bible there. That's okay. That's just the book. But I remember all the words to this song. It's one I really like. It's one that is popular with.
Usually have a J6er on about every month.
Back in the early 1970s.
I've been supporting this since the beginning. Jeremy Brown.
You are so prepared, man. You do, okay. Okay. See, I should have brought some of my own stands, but I didn't. But anyway, this is a song that some of you will remember. How many of you were alive in 1970? Okay, how many of you remember the 70s as a really fun decade? I do, okay? And I'll tell you what, some of the best music came from that era. In fact, I could do a whole hour or 2 hours of 70s songs, but I won't do that today. But there's a great old song that was sung by a group that was kind of put together. Went like this.
Okay, all right. Nice work.
There's nowhere in the world that I would rather be than with you, my friend. And there's nothing in this world that I would rather see.
Make sure you guys go to the Tim I'm sorry, thejimpriceshow.com. Divided we fall.
Song today is because I don't know how many of you, and I'm not a real partisan person when it comes to parties, but how many of you got to watch any of the Republican National Convention? Was it not fantastic? I mean, I don't remember in my 64 years another political convention to which I was glued as much as this one this year. And I mean, every speaker was great. And you know what I love to see? And I know sometimes we do get a little down and all that, but boy, was that convention united or what? I mean, everybody was in harmony. It's so important to have that going into an election, is that demonstration of unity with our side. And I just love to see it. My brother and I were talking, and we were talking about how entertaining the upcoming convention is going to be. Whether it's the protesters on the outside or the dissension on the inside, it's going to be really interesting. But anyway, so let me do this again, okay? There's nowhere in the world that I would rather be than with you, my friend. And there's nothing in the world that I would rather see than your smile, my friend. For united we stand, divided we fall. And if our backs should ever be against For united we stand, divided we fall. And if our backs should ever be against the wall, we'll be together, you and I. For united we stand, divided we fall. And if our backs should ever be against the wall, we'll be together, you and That's a great song, isn't it? I'm going to take a little bit. And being a preacher, I do have to share a thought or two as far as a message. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you, Kim.
You know, there's a great verse in the Bible, in the Old Testament book of Psalms. In the Old Testament book of Psalms, there's a great verse in Psalm 33, and it's kind of right in the middle of that psalm, that says this, and maybe some of you can finish it for me. It says, blessed is the nation whose what? Whose God is the Lord, okay? Specifically, that's speaking of the God of the Bible, okay? The God of creation. In fact, as you read that passage in Psalm 33, you will discover that there are some characteristics of a nation whose God is the Lord. And that's really where it begins, is a nation whose God is the Lord is a God who recognizes that it is a nation who recognizes that God is the Creator. Psalm 33, beginning at verse 6 says, by the word of the Lord the heavens were made, their starry host by the breath of his mouth. He gathers the waters of the sea into jars. He puts the deep, that's the oceans, okay, into storehouses. Let all the earth fear the Lord. Let all the people of the world revere him. For he spoke. Remember, that's how God created things. He just said it and it came into existence. For he spoke and it came to be. He commanded and it stood firm. A nation whose God is the Lord recognizes him as creation, as creator. I'm curious, how many of you believe our nation today recognizes God as creator? Oh, go into your high school science classroom and you will find out very quickly, at least for the last 2 or 3 generations, that we don't anymore. 100 years ago, you had that great trial down in Dayton, Tennessee. We call it the monkey trial, right? Scopes trial. And that one came down on the side of creationism and said that evolution couldn't be taught. And somewhere along the way, that got flipped all the way around. And nowadays, evolution is what is taught in the public school system, okay? And what is evolution? Well, I have to be specific about this when I talk about it. Darwin's, what we call macro model of evolution, that says everything came from one little thing in terms of life, is the idea that, okay, let's just put it this way. We, and for that matter, all life, began as pond scum. All right? Now, I'll tell you what, I've been called pond scum a few times in my life. It really hurts when it's my wife that calls me that, though. But we all began as pond scum, right? And then that pond scum grew legs and walked out of the pond and onto dry land and grew other things and arms and eyeballs and who knows what, until finally we became this, okay? This. Maybe I'm not a good example. I might still look like pond scum to some people. But, you know, that's what Darwinian evolution says, is that we all started out as pond scum that grew legs walked on land and became these intricate creatures with all of these intricate organs and parts that work together so amazingly, but they just happened to develop that way over millions and millions of years, they say. I want to say something to you. If you are a believer in God's creation, and you see the lie, and that's what I will call it, the lie, that is the Darwinian model of macroevolution being taught to our kids in the public school classrooms. There's a very simple answer to it. And the answer is this. And I don't think we address it on this level very much, but let me tell you this, and I'm going to give you a simple answer to it. The answer is that Darwinian evolution goes against science. And you know why it does? Very simple. It goes against the second law of thermodynamics, Newton's law of matter. And that law simply says this, that everything goes from order to disorder. All right? Now, that's illustrated in nature. How many of you have ever built a sandcastle? Okay, where is that sandcastle today? Okay, it's gone. That's order to disorder. That's the nature of nature. Okay? You look at mountains, over time they crumble, right? Don't they? And they erode, right? You look at other things in nature, igloos, or glaciers, they're better, on the bigger model. Glaciers melt, okay? Everything goes from order to disorder. And I know trees grow up and they live, and then they'll re-blossom in the spring, and spring after spring after spring. But even after that, eventually, all trees die. Did you know that? That's entropy. That's saying everything goes from order to disorder. Death and decay is all around us, so have a good day, right? By the way, it includes us too. I mean, I know in my body, sometimes in my mind, I'm still 19 years old, right? You are too. But I will tell you, my body says otherwise often. And it reminds me often that I am experiencing entropy myself. But what does the Darwinian model teach us? It teaches us that we started out as pond scum. Is that order or disorder? Well, that's pretty much disorder, isn't it? And then we grew legs. Oh, that's a little more order. And then we grew arms. That's a little more order. And then we grew our eyeballs. That's a little more order. And so on and so forth. And it tells us that we evolved from disorder to order. It goes against science. So I just want to say this. If we're going to be a nation whose God is the Lord, then we have got to get back to acknowledging God as our Creator.
Amen.
And the fact is, right now, we've got a couple of generations that generally don't even do that. Secondly, a nation whose God is the Lord also acknowledges God as their caregiver. Why do I say that? Because how does God care for us? Well, He provides for us the food we eat, the air we breathe, the fellowship we share. Everything we have that is a need in life, God meets for us through the creation that He has given us. So that very creation also demonstrates that God is our caregiver. And the nation whose God is the Lord will acknowledge that as well. And that kind of goes right along with Him being Creator. But the third thing that a nation whose God is the Lord will acknowledge is, and boy, I think our politicians, well, some of them do, but not enough of them do. But in Washington and in Columbus and everywhere, the county courthouse, they need to acknowledge that ultimately it is not them, but it is God who is in control. It is not them, but it is God who is in control. I appreciated Donald Trump the other week when he gets up off his knees in that situation, and one of the first things he said was he attributed his survival to God's intervention that day. And I appreciate that about him. This is a man who's a multi-billionaire who, has a great heart not only for our country, but I think he is developing a stronger heart for God and an acknowledgement that God is in control. This song goes on to say in verse 10, the Lord foils the plans of the nations. He thwarts the purposes of the people. But the plans of the Lord stand firm forever, the purposes of his heart through all generations. God is ultimately in control. I always like to say that God, who created history, he created time itself by creation, is also the Lord of history. And I know that he had his special nation in the Old Testament, which was Israel. Some still believe Israel is his nation today. I tend to think that is more representative of the church as a new Israel, but you can disagree with me on that. But my point is this, that God is not only the God of nations, but he is the God of history, but he is the God of nations. And I think that is true of all time. I mean, he separated the nations of the Tower of Babel. And throughout all of the history of God's people in the Bible, God was always not only working through his own nation, but working in the situations in all of the nations around him. And often, the prophets who came to Israel would first speak to Israel, but then they'd speak to, Moab and Ammon and the Canaanites and the Assyrians and all these other nations around them. They would speak to them about God's expectations of them. God is the God of all nations, and I don't think that ended with Bible times. I think that goes on today. God is still the God of all nations. And we often talk about whether or not we are a Christian nation, right? And I believe we are in our foundations. I think we wandered from those foundations quite a bit, but my answer to that question is that in our own time, I believe we have been a Christian nation, and I would love to see us be a Christian nation again, as much as is possible. And I am going to do as much as I can possibly do to make our nation that Christian nation again by influencing my friends and neighbors with the knowledge of the Bible and God's love for them in Christ and their acknowledgement of him as creator and as caregiver as well. God is ultimately in control, and the nation whose God is the Lord acknowledges that God's ultimately in control. We are not. Now, I like the situation that one time happened with Abraham Lincoln during the heat of the Civil War. He had one of his strategists come to him, and he simply made this statement. He said, Mr. President, I am so glad that God is on the side of the Union. And I'm not going to argue that he wasn't, but Lincoln's response to him was fantastic. He simply said, sir, I am not so concerned whether or not God is on the side of the Union. He said, I am more concerned that we are on God's side, because he always knows what's right. And God knows what's right. And he will bring about what is right in the end. But we want to be a part of that. He is in control. The nation whose God is the Lord acknowledges that God not only is creator, not only does he have compassion and care for his creation in that nation, but God is ultimately in control. And then, finally, I want to say this, that God is to a nation whose God is the Lord. God is, and well, for that matter, for all nations, God is the ultimate critique of nations. He is the ultimate, we could say, critic of nations. In other words, he will judge nations. And I always like to say, he will judge nations for things that nations do. Okay? I want to ask you this question, and if you're doing anything else right now, looking at your phone or whatever, I want you to hear this question. If God was to judge our nation today, what might he judge us for? Might he judge us for 60 to 70 million abortions of unborn babies? I think he might very well judge us for that. And often just for the sake of somebody else's convenience, right? Might he judge us for redefining marriage? Remember, God gave us the definition of marriage, didn't he? And that is, it is one man and one woman for life. And what have we said? Oh, it's about anything you want it to be. Would God not have something to say about that to the United States of America?
Jonathan's mom, guys.
Especially for Christians, you kind of just
Our
let it
hero.
happen, right? What else might God judge us for? What about rampant pornography that is now even at the fingertips of our children? Right? Might God judge us for that? I think he might. Might God judge us now for, speaking of children, might God judge us for the fact that we've got school systems, public school systems that are trying to teach little boys and girls in the second grade that there is no such thing as little boys and girls anymore? Doesn't that just disgust you? Y'all hear me? Doesn't that just disgust you? Well, it disgusts me, and I think even more and more importantly, we need to know that that is against God's will and it disgusts God. I want to be a nation in the United States of America whose God is the Lord. And I hope that you do too. But that means we begin by acknowledging Him as Creator. We acknowledge Him as our caregiver. We acknowledge that He is in control. And we acknowledge finally that He is the critic. He is the ultimate judge who will judge each and every nation. And that, excuse me, something in here, allergies. Anyway, that the judgment of nations isn't something, by the way, I think that's waiting for the great judgment day. I think it is something that happens in our own time. Nations literally die because of the behavior that they exhibit, right? And I wonder where we're at as a nation right now. What's our future? Are we going to return to our Christian principles and be a nation whose God is the Lord, or are we going to keep on going the direction that we're going? Well, I have one more song.
I don't say that either. Things.
Okay.
But oh, I made it.
If tomorrow all the things were gone I'd worked for all my life, and I'd have to start again with just my children and my wife, I thank my lucky stars to be living here today, because the flag still stands for freedom, and they can't take that away. And I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I forget the man who died, who gave that right. Come on, guys, show the words. And I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today. Come on. Because there ain't no doubt about this man. God bless the USA. Okay, from the lakes of Minnesota, from the lakes of Minnesota to the hills of Tennessee, across the plains of Texas, we'll see the shining sea. From Detroit down to Houston, New York to LA, well, there's pride in every American heart, and it's time we to say. And
Ladies and gentlemen, Tim Carlson, get the hands together for him. Joe, you ready? You got here right on time. Ladies and gentlemen, our next speaker is going to be Mr. Joe Blystone.
Hi, folks. How we doing today? Good?
Yes.
Good?
Bless.
Come on.
Bless.
Where the heck is everybody? Doesn't anybody want freedom anymore? Sure seems like it, don't it?
I'm scared.
Yeah. My gosh, we got to get more
Yeah.
people involved. This just shows me right here that how
She said hello.
you know, they have an opportunity to come here. They have an opportunity to be part of something great. And where the heck are they? Where are they at? Probably at the baseball game, the soccer game, you know, everywhere where they shouldn't be. They should be here fighting for their country because it's going to shit. And I don't know about you folks, but it scares me to death. As we see every time we turn the television on, something else has happened. Whether it's the assassination attempt of the greatest president in the United States. My gosh, I couldn't believe that. And I can't believe how the Democrats and the media are trying to play that off. We have the FBI director that's even, you know, he talked about, I don't know if you listened to when he was in front of Congress here the other day, but he talked about, well, maybe it wasn't a bullet, maybe it was just shrapnel from a bullet. I mean, for the God's honest truth, the whole darn system is corrupt.
That's right.
And I don't care if you're a Republican or a Democrat, the whole system is corrupt.
Amen.
We need more people. We need more common people. More working class stiffs. The people out here grinding every day. That's the people we need to stand up. We need you to stand up and be counted. And I know it's hard. I know, you know, we're trying to pay the electric bill. We're trying to, you know, pay the car bill, the mortgage. We got to grind every single day to get the bills paid. And of course, we're dealing with inflation that, you know, everything's doubled or tripled. So to even try to survive these days, we're being squeezed.
That's right.
The middle class is being squeezed right out of existence.
That's right.
There's going to be the rich and there's going to be the poor.
That's right.
And I can't say that I'm going to stand up here and tell you how to fix it either.
That's right.
Because every time I start talking, I get myself in trouble. I know how, the only way it's going to be fixed.
Peaceful
But,
revolution.
gosh, we better not talk about that.
Peaceful revolution.
I mean, that's how we got our freedom these days. We got our freedom because men were willing to trudge through the thickets, go through the woods, and fight. And shed blood. And I hate to say, but that's the only way we're going to get our freedom back. We are slaves these days. We are slaves to the United States Corporation.
That's right.
And I don't know if you're aware of this or not, but back in 1871, when the United States went bankrupt, they had to restructure.
and they restructured under the Vatican and the British monarchy, and they formed the United States Corporation, of which that's who runs this country today. You wasn't taught that in school, was you? You know, I've learned so much in the past couple years because I'm just a pissed off patriot.
Yes, we are.
I'm the guy that was willing to throw everything on the sideline, including my business, and walk into the valley of death, I would say.
That's right.
And we always know that politics is corrupt on both sides of the aisle. I didn't really realize how corrupt they are, and you don't realize until you're in their targets what they're capable of. They are capable of anything and everything. Many don't know, I've kind of been out, you know, back on the farm for the past couple years, doing our thing, not really out front, not saying too much. I say a lot on social media, but that's about it, but I really haven't been anywhere. You know, a year and a half after the primary election, where we did take 22% of the votes. That was historic.
That's right.
And we had a lot of patriots, not just me. We had a lot of people all over this great state that fought and fought hard. It was amazing. It was historic. But I tell you what, being on that front line, you see what these people are capable of. A year and a half after the primary, the FBI showed up at my farm. Many don't know that. First thing in the morning, I'm out feeding cows. I come back up to the barn on the gator, and there's the two suits standing beside my barn. Wasn't sure what they wanted. I asked them, I said, can I help you? I figured, you know, they had some questions about the business or whatever. And the gentleman said, yeah, I would like to have a conversation. Can you talk to us? And I said, sure. So he opens up his ID and he said, I'm so-and-so from the FBI. I said, Bud, I said, you need to get the blankety blank off my farm right now.
Blankety blank.
I said, and if you don't, I'm calling the sheriff and having you arrested for trespassing.
That's right.
So they left.
That's right.
But then they went to my accountant's house and started intimidating him. And my accountant, he's just a bean counter. He can be intimidated.
Yeah.
So, come to find out, granted, this is a year and a half after the primary. A year and a half. Somebody anonymously called the FBI and said, well, Joe Blystone was funneling campaign money into his business account. And my accountant laughed. He said, that's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. He said, I do all their accounting. He said, I have access to all their checking accounts. I keep the books. He said, they have a POS system. All the money's tracked. But it's the point that they showed up and they started pushing a narrative, folks. And as we see today, one of the most powerful men in the country, President Trump, we've seen how they turned the judicial system upside down. They make their law as they got him sitting in the courtroom as a defendant. These people should be hung.
Amen.
Hung. No accountability ever. Ever. We see Larry Householder in a prison cell. That's where he should be. But you know who should be right beside of him? Governor DeWine. He took $1 million too. How the hell did he get out of that whole mess? Because I believe some of these people are untouchable. That's the world we live in.
No, it's a good old boy club.
The Hillary Clintons, the Mike DeWines. the Obamas,
It's a back scratching club.
all these people, they're untouchable. They can do ungodly things.